I purchased my Trance 27.5 in July 2018 from a Giant store here in Melbourne, Australia. The bike experience was fantastic. Picked it up after being fully checked over by the team and all ready to ride, complete with tubeless. For general trail riding, this bike seems like the perfect all-rounder. Enough travel to keep you comfortable and out of trouble. It is great for flatter ground and climbing technical single track. I do similar climbing time to my XC bike, slightly slower on flat ground. This is more likely to do with the burly high roller tyres. The suspension platform feels very efficient yet supple over rough ground and roots. My 2018 model year Trance 2 was spec'd with full Shimano SLX and Fox suspension. Now the SLX is the 1x with 30 tooth front chainring and with 1146 tooth cassette. This has been great for my very steep country, but does run out of legs a little bit on the downhills. And it's also fitted with the full SLX brake calipers and levers. Now I've been very impressed with these brakes. They've got more than enough power for what I do with them. The rear shock is the Trunium mounted Fox Float GPS Performance with 3-position compression adjustment. Now I usually run this in the middle position, but it does have the climb switch as well, or you can put it into the full open for any really rough downhill trails. The front forks have also, I found them flawless. The Fox Rhythm with grip compression dampener. I usually run this back from open about a quarter of the way around for most of my trails and jumps, but sometimes we'll put it to the full open position for a really fast downhill. All the other main components are just Giant's in-house branded. Have seemed to be pretty good quality and function. The Giant dropper could have slightly more travel. I think it's around 100mm. Could probably be perfect at around 150 for me on a medium. The Giant wheels and hubs have been quite good. I have slightly dented the rear, but it hasn't affected the function at this point. But they could probably be a bit wider. They're only a 23mm internal, so I'm not really up with the current spec of bikes and tyres. Last bit of spec to mention is the tyres on this bike, which are fairly aggressive Maxxis High Roller 2 in a 2.4 inch wide. The general feel of the bike is very fun. The 67-degree head angle dips nicely into corners with great front end grip and with a slight tail happy feel on the limit. Very fun bike to ride. As a trail bike, there's not much that phases this machine. It's happy to drop off larger heights or launch big gaps of well-made flow trail. It's well balanced for takeoff, with both front and rear suspension working well together. I've been really impressed with the Fox suspension. It was one thing I thought I might have been compromising a little bit with getting the Trance 2. It has worked out very well. On landing, the suspension feels very progressive, with rarely a feeling of bottoming out. I only weigh 74 kilograms. This might vary with larger riders or with suspension setup, but I've been very happy with it. I ride this bike down all sorts of trails, but you probably notice from some of my clips I do like to do some of the faster sort of downhill style of trails. It always feels very planted and takes a lot to upset this bike. To me it feels like it has a lot more travel than it actually does, rarely reaching the end of its travel, either the front or the rear. It's very stable yet nimble. It's happy to either dodge obstacles or just plough through them. It feels very easy to lift the front wheel in preparation for drops or pumping sections of the trail. Just a nice, well-handling bike. The wide handlebars add to the feeling of stability, despite the 67-degree head angle. The bike climbs well, however with a 73.5 degree seat angle could be slightly more upright for very steep climbing. I've adjusted the saddle as far forward as possible to compensate, as I do ride some very steep terrain. The front end can wander on very steep climbs. Normal climbing is very good, but more just the really steep stuff. At the back, the rear Maestro suspension works well for climbing with minimal pedal bob. I rarely lock out the suspension unless it's a very long climb or I'm going for a personal best. The traction is fantastic, especially with the chunky tyres on it. I hope you've enjoyed my review of my 2018 model year Trance 2. Now, there's not a lot of difference between this and the current 2019 model year. I believe the brakes is probably the only main one, and I think it does have a more modern wheel set on it at 30mm wide. Otherwise it's largely identical. But yeah, I have enjoyed this bike immensely over the last 12 months. It's been a fantastic buy, and it's probably pretty rare these days for someone to buy a bike and ride it reasonably regularly without making a single change to it. But that's how happy I have been with the bike. I set it up with the suspension to my weight and whatnot when I first got it. Pretty much ridden it untouched since, as you know, including the tyres and brakes and everything else. It's been really good. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hope to see you on the trails. Cheers.